Hi, 3 Minute of Whiskey, back for another instalment of Christmas movie, whiskey, advent calendar mashup type thing. Probably need to come up with a better title, but I'm making this up as I go along, so we'll make do. Today I'm back in my youth. I'm tugging on the nostalgic heartstrings and watching a movie that I've not seen for a very long time, but when I was a kid I watched every year, probably multiple times. And it is the movie that really defines Santa for me. There have been gazillions of Santa movies that have followed this one. Tim Allen, I think, has played in multiple Santa Claus movies. Kurt Russell, various others, but no, the one that really defines Santa for me is a chap called David Huddleston. And he starred as Santa Claus in the aptly titled Santa Claus the Movie. You know that it is the quintessential Santa Claus movie when they put the movie at the end of the title. So yeah, looking forward to watching this. Also a little apprehensive because I'm a little bit older than I was before. And I do remember quite a bit of this film, and it is pretty cheesy. I know it's very cheesy. It's obviously not aimed for a 46-year-old guy, but I'm gonna brush all that off and hopefully re-engage with my youth and enjoy the ride. It also stars John Lithgow as the villain of the piece. Because every movie has to have a great villain, and John Lithgow is, if I remember rightly, as hammy as they come in this role, playing a wonderful corporate sleazeball. What whiskey have I paired with this? Well, you might be able to make it out on the video. It's a very distinctive type of bottle. I have gone for an Ardbeg. Why am I having an Ardbeg with Santa Claus the movie? How do they go together? Well, to do that, to explain that, I'll have to spoiler this film. It is a 39-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen it yet and you're upset that I'm about to spoiler it, well, I am sorry, but them's the breaks. The plot of Santa Claus the movie, other than the origin story of Santa, or the version of the origin story, is that Santa comes up against his biggest test, which is the modern 1980s world of corporate America and US capitalism, basically. John Lithgow representing everything that's wrong with the world, and particularly with Christmas, in that it's just about the money. It's just about how much they can make. Because this is, of course, a 1980s movie, and if it doesn't have some kind of moral around corporate greed, then they're not really doing it right. And so John Lithgow's character, BZ, I feel very, very dirty for saying that, or BZ, if we want to be truly English about it. His character isn't happy with making loads of money at Christmas. He wants to make more, and there just isn't enough time. There isn't enough Christmas for him to make all the money he wants to make. So he thinks, rather than wait for next Christmas, I'm just going to create a whole new holiday. And I'm going to create it in March, and I'm going to call it Christmas 2. And everybody knows that you can't have Christmas in March. At the very least, there aren't enough elves. There aren't enough elves to make enough toys for all the little children around the world. They have a tight schedule to make it to December the 24th every year. And it just isn't going to work. John Lithgow, BZ, is just being mean. And similarly, just like you can't have Christmas in March, you shouldn't really be drinking this Ardbeg at Christmas, because this Ardbeg is Ardbeg BizarreBQ. The clue is in the name, BizarreBQ, because it is a whiskey that has been engineered to drink standing over a barbecue in the beautiful British summer weather, probably holding an umbrella over your head. So yeah, it's not a Christmas dram. It's not designed to be a Christmas dram. But we're going to do it anyway. We're going to give it a go, see how it goes down, see if it matches and works with this lovely movie. And I'm hoping that this movie does not spoil for me because I've got really happy memories of it. I'm drinking my whiskey in this lovely, as well. I just want to point this out. This lovely Lakes whiskey tumbler, and it is a tumbler as well. I've nearly knocked it off there about 3 times just while I was setting up. So yeah, and I've also poured rather a large dram as well, which is not always a bad thing. So yeah, off we go. Santa Claus the movie, 1980s corporate American sleazeballs, and a world famous comedian in Dudley Moore playing an elf. I am certain in the future no other world famous comedians will ever go on to play an elf, because why would they? Because Dudley Moore's done it so well. Nobody else needs to follow suit, I hope. So, finished my rewatch of Santa Claus the movie. Haven't finished my whiskey yet, there's still a bit of that left. I've been savouring it. It was quite a large dram. So yeah, I've been enjoying going back to it throughout the film. And if we start with the whiskey, look, it's a really good Ardbeg. And that in itself, fills me with kind of warm and fuzzy feelings, because if I'm honest with you, I've not been Ardbeg's biggest fan in the last few years. I used to really, really love Ardbeg. They were one of my favourite distilleries. But in recent years, it just feels like they haven't been hitting the marks the way they used to, particularly with their limited editions, their committee releases and things like that. The core range has remained top-notch. But when I think back to, when I first started out with whiskey, or certainly started out with my obsession, back when I visited Islay and stuff like that, things like Ardbeg Roller Coaster, Alligator, Supernova, there was a hit after hit after hit of great whiskies, committee releases and limited editions. And the last few years, there just hasn't. And I appreciate other people may have a different opinion, but for me, yeah, they just haven't been there until this came along. And this isn't a committee release, but it is a limited edition bottling. And I remember when I went back to the wee dram when I first tried this, it was actually on the day that they released their committee release as well. Ardbeg released their committee release, and I think it was Heavy Vapors, and that was a Marmite whiskey in itself. But I got to try both side by side. This one, the BizarreBQ, and the Heavy Vapors, and this one absolutely knocked it out of the park. It was head and shoulders above the committee release, the Heavy Vapors. And it's also way cheaper, or it was way cheaper. So for me, it was like a no-brainer. So it's good. It's good that there is an Ardbeg limited edition out there that is of such good quality. They may say that it's for barbecues, it's targeted for kind of, those summer months when you're having those barbecues, but the fact is, it's an Ardbeg. Ardbegs are, great for drinking in the winter, for drinking in those Christmassy and wintry months. Excuse me, in front of a fire. So this one, it works with a barbecue, it works at Christmas, everyone's happy. And if anything, if these guys really wanted to market this to the perfect group, then they should be marketing it to people who live in the Southern Hemisphere, because they have Christmas in the summer. They can have this whiskey on the beach with their barbecue on Christmas Day. Everyone's a winner. So, yeah, great dram. It is a sherry matured, it's PX matured. That comes across. You get a lot of those sherry notes, the dried, and sweet fruits as well, coming through. And thankfully, the Ardbeg essence doesn't completely overpower the sherry or vice versa. It's a really quite a nice blend of the two, and it's got that signature Ardbeg finish just here. So yeah, superb dram, really, really good, and it's made me feel really, really happy that you know, that there's an Ardbeg limited edition on the market that's come, that's hit the spot after a few years where maybe they just haven't for me. You can still buy this. You're not going to get it at retail price anymore. I wouldn't have thought. It was about £75 when it came out. You're probably going to be paying more than 100 now on the secondary market or at specialist shops, which unfortunately is the way it is. But hey, if you've been really nice this year, maybe Santa will leave one of these under the tree for you. If not, then you're just going to have to take my word for it that it is a absolutely classic Ardbeg dram. What would I give it? 7.5 out of 10, something like that. It's well worth it, well worth a good drink. Like I said, I've been savouring mine because I've really been enjoying it as I've been sipping through. So what about the movie? Has the movie left me with those same warm and fuzzy feelings? No. If I'm being honest with you, it really didn't. Yes, there was a bit of nostalgia there. It's a movie that I watched when I was a kid many times, loved it as a kid. This is probably a good example of why you shouldn't go back and rewatch movies you loved as a kid, because you'll inevitably be disappointed. Huddlestone's still great as Santa Claus. He'll always be my Santa Claus. John Lithgow is brilliant as the villain, overly hammy, you know, and eminently quotable. But the movie as on a whole is ultra cheesy, cheesier than I even remember. And look, I like a good bit of cheese with crackers and port, or a whiskey that's been finished in port casks. But yeah, this was even a little bit too cheesy for me. It's just dated, you know. Maybe that's the issue. It's just not of this time. You know, it's a very 80s movie. That sometimes is a really good thing. I love my 80s movies. This one just doesn't feel like it is. And maybe while I was thinking maybe it is just that these Santa movies have a very short shelf life. That's why they make so many of them. And the fact that they make loads of money. So, you know, it's disappointing. I'm not in any rush to go off and rewatch this again. I might watch it with Sasha next year just to see how the next generation copes with that kind of film. We'll see. I have a feeling she'll probably ask me to turn it off so she can watch Frozen. But hey, you know, we'll maybe give it a go. But I'm certainly not in any rush to go off and watch any more Santa Claus style movies, particularly the Tim Allen Santa cinematic universe that is out there, that's been out there for a good few years, or the Kurt Russell one for that matter. I think I'll give those a wide berth. Another thing with this film as well that I'd completely forgotten until I was reminded about it by Pete and JD is it contains what might be one of the most blatant examples of product placement I've ever seen in a film. It's an entire scene of just a guy, a homeless kid, salivating over people eating in McDonald's. And it's just like a complete paid advert for McDonald's, which, again, was a thing. You know, product placement was very in your face back in the 80s, but this one actually takes the biscuit. It's completely outrageous and over the top. But hey, it was a different time, as they say. So what would I give this out of my 12 days of Christmas? Clearly, I'm not going to give it a really big score. So 5. It's probably about fair. What is that? 5 gold rings? Yeah. Although I'm now realising that my ranking system is somewhat flawed, because 5 gold rings sounds good when it really isn't in this instance. So maybe we should call them 5 knockoff gold rings from Ratner's or something like that. Yeah, maybe that works better. And if you know what Ratner's is, then you're definitely the wrong side of 40. Cool, so we'll leave it there. Thank you as always for watching. Please do like, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll be back tomorrow with another movie, one I've not watched before, so we shall see. One I've been kind of avoiding as well, but hey, we'll give it a go. But before I go, I figure in the spirit of Santa Claus the movie and 80s product placement, you know, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. So here's my attempt. I'm gonna have my can of Coke, my Christmas Coke, with my whiskey. Lovely. See you tomorrow.